Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is Thursday, June 3rd, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in learning some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever discovered. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye, you'd have to scroll down a bit on the new website to find that, but there's a link in the upper left-hand corner that says Start Here. Click on that. It will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. The book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. It's a tool I've used for 17 years now, over 17 years, to improve the quality of my life and relationships and effectively turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of that infallible guidance system that we've all been given. You can also download a host of other tools there, but primarily you can download that tool itself. It's a PDF file. Click on it, download it for free, print it off, use it as often as you'd like. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will give you access to a completely free and private app that contains the reality management worksheet, an abbreviated version of that process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope you do that soon and often, because that will most likely give you comments, questions, or maybe you want to get some support in actually working through a worksheet. That's why we're here, 2 hours a day in our current format, 5 days a week. If you have a comment or a question, give us a call at 563-999-3581. Alternatively, if you're listening to this through the archives, you can send us an email. You can send an email to Jeanie, Jeanie, at whyagain.org. And or you can send me an email, tjh at mindshifters-academy.org. We're also doing the Course in Miracles workbook lessons this year. This is the 154th day of the year. Today's lesson is, I am among the ministers of God. And again, the commentary is 14 or 15 paragraphs long, so I'm not going to read the whole thing because that's available for anybody, even free online, if you go to ACIM.org. and type in lesson 154, it'll take you, we can read this whole thing. But the commentary here reads, let us today be neither arrogant nor falsely humble. When we are told, when we are reminding ourselves that we are a minister of God, let's not be foolish, let's not be falsely humble, and let's not get full of ourselves. The fact of the matter is, someone or something created us, we have this existence, and as the Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery talk about over and over again, what we do with our life is our choice. And if we choose only love, we choose to act in loving ways, then we teach only love. And it goes on to say here that, whatever your appointed role might be, it's far bigger and it's contained in a far larger system than your conscious logical mind will ever be able to comprehend, much less even to even perceive, much less comprehend it. So rather than think you know what your role is here, great spiritual teachings for a lot of years have said, just focus on the positive. Just identify your true nature and then extend that to others. So if I'm going to acknowledge that there is this impulse for life and creativity and love within me, and then I get busy extending that in every interaction I have with everyone and everything, it's going to have positive ripple effects that go way beyond anything my conscious logical mind could ever track. So in this lesson, we're taught that the messenger isn't the one who writes the message and doesn't decide who it's going to get delivered to. So in this lesson, it encourages us to think our purpose is to read the message of love that is implanted in us, and then simply extend that to everyone and everything we interact with. And as we do that, if we're willing to do that, we get the benefits. We get the benefits directly within our individual energy system, and then we get the benefits because the world we're living in improves. And as we teach, as we send the message out, we get the benefit of it. And of course, it's the opposite of a zero-sum game, where if I have $100 and I give away $98, I'm only left with 10 because there were only 100 to begin with. But in this arena, where we're talking about energy, when we're talking about the creative energy, the energy of life, the energy of love, as some would call it, it works very differently. The more I give it, the more I feel it, the more I have it in my life. The more I give away, the more it comes back to me. So, let us but learn this lesson for today. We will not recognize what we receive until we've given it away. You've heard this said 100 different ways, 100 different times, and yet your belief is still lacking. But this is sure, until a belief is given it, until you believe in it and you give it and experience it, you can't know how much it's going to bless you to pass along the message of creation, of love. So, our lesson for today is thus stated thus: I am among the ministers of God, of the creation, of love. And I am grateful that I have this means by which to recognize that I am free. The world recedes as we light up our minds and realize these holy words are true. This is the message sent to us from our Creator today. Now we demonstrate how these messages have changed our minds about ourselves and what our function is. For as we prove that we accept no will that we do not share, our many gifts from the Creator will spring to our sight and leap into our hands, and we will recognize what we have received only as we give it away. So, Lesson 154 from the Course in Miracles Experiment by Pam Grout. She titles it, A Loving Gift of Freedom to the World. She quotes Esther Hicks as saying, there's no such thing as a moment that isn't rich with treasures. Pam writes, say what? Lesson 154, I'm among the ministers of Source. This has to be a big mistake, right? How am I, this perpetually insecure human being, supposed to offer assistance or a message of hope to others? I sometimes have trouble getting out of bed. This lesson says that voice is the ego, swaying to its old familiar beat. Rather than join in like I used to, the Course tells me to call on my holy spokesperson. This holy spokesperson knows my appointed role and knows how to fulfill it. I like to think of Hobson, the hilarious butler who took care of Dudley Moore in the 1981 movie Arthur. This role was deftly performed by John Gielgud. Hobson loved his irresponsible charge with an open heart, no matter what ridiculous, immature thing he did. All Arthur had to do was ring a little silver bell. The Course tells me that my evidence to that truth. So, how is it that your very existence is a blessing to life and a miracle? It's life expressing in form. It's the creative energy expressing in form. Some would call it love. Some would call it God. How is it that that happens and you can't even comprehend it? Well, it happens that way because that conscious logical mind that we are so dutifully trained to believe is our Savior, is our Master, is really not our Savior or Master at all. It really was always intended to be just a faithful servant. And in some great spiritual teachings, they remind us, pardon the phrase, but your conscious logical mind was intended to be a very stupid servant. It was never designed to be your master or to map out your course in life. It's there to serve, to be of service to the higher self. One of the ways Michael Rice has made sense of this, he's talking from an ancient scriptural passage that says, "The eye is the lamp of the soul. If the light for you is darkness, how deep shall your darkness become?" Well, with the information that he had access to from the transcripts of the Kabor's manuscript and the translation interpretation work that was done by his team of experts, a way to make sense of that in the English language is to say that your perceptual mind, this conscious logical mind, and the input from your senses was designed to help you navigate through this earthly life without walking into open manholes or bumping into trees. And yet, there's any hostility or fear in your mind, any negative emotional state in your mind, that's what was referred to as darkness. It means your lights are out, you're not perceiving accurately. And so before acting, if there's any hostility or fear in your mind, the only way for you to move forward in a healthy way is to restore yourself to calm prior to acting or speaking. So area code 910, you're in the air. Who do we have?
Hey, Dr. Tim, it's Jill from Wilmington.
Hello, Jill. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I wanted to call. Your intro reminded me of something that just happened this morning, and I was thinking about calling anyway, but it's kind of on topic. Your voice, I heard your voice in my head today tell me something, and it shifted my whole outlook and emotional state. Yesterday, I got some news that was very disappointing to me, and it was still bothering me this morning, and I was just kind of ill and grumpy, and I wanted to blame my son for talking too much or, you know, all the things we do that aren't true. And I came home, and I was just kind of sitting with it, and then I heard you say, I think this is you. I didn't really recognize your voice at first, but you said, "What am I making this mean?" Is that something you say? Is that your
I say that quite often. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay. And the minute that popped into my head, I saw what was underneath my upset. And I saw all of the extra projections that I was putting on this piece of information that I got and what I was making it mean, which was really big. And yes, it had me upset, but it's also made up because I don't know if it actually means that. So I wanted to share that because it helped me. I knew that there was more underneath my surface, and it helped me dig into that. And you may not know that your voice lives in my head, and it's a good thing. You know, these impacts that we have on people that we don't even know about. So I wanted to mention that to you, that and to anyone listening, that it's very helpful to ask that question, to get outside of the little hamster wheel story and see the bigger truth, or truth as I perceive it, maybe I should say.
Well, and that's a wonderful example. That's why it's one of my two favorite questions. The first one is if I have any recognition that I am triggered to any kind of upset, tension, frustration, anger, sadness, hurt, whatever, I like to take one of those nice, full, deep breaths, hold it at the top for a couple counts, and then fully resist the exhale. So it's a nice, long, slow exhale, because that sets my body to relaxing. It triggers that parasympathetic response, takes me out of any stress response or any fight or flight or freeze response. And then when I do that, I turn the focus inside and I ask myself these two questions alternately. Number one, how am I creating this negative emotion? And number two, what am I making this situation mean? Because it's only by the interpretation I choose and place on life events that I create any emotional response at all. Right? It's the thoughts that are contained in the interpretation that I choose, which, if I pour enough of my mind energy into them, actually generate the emotions I experience, and nothing else creates my emotions. So I'm glad that was useful for you. They continue to be highly productive questions in my life.
Yeah, it was. I struggle a little bit with I know, okay, so in my mind, I know, like if I'm feeling off, if I have a negative emotion, that it's triggered by something in me. But I have a difficulty still with even wanting to let go of the negative emotion, quite honestly. Sometimes I want to keep it for whatever silly reason. Today, I didn't at all. Like, I did not like where I was and how I felt, and I was kind of desperate to get out of there, and really, initially, desperately, like, trying to look for the cause. You know, like I said, it's my son. It's the state of society. It's this, it's that. And nothing was fitting. Nothing really soothed that agitation that I had. And thank goodness your voice piped up and asked me that question. And it was the question that I needed to ask. What am I making this mean? And then there really was so much underneath it that I could really immediately also notice that was untrue. That was just my projections into the wreckage of my future. So, yeah, it was very helpful.
I'm glad to hear it. And, of course, there are just layers upon layers of how a key thought like that can be so helpful. And the one that we're going for at the primary level is I'm trying every...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, the other thing you noticed is...
Well, I also saw a compulsive behavior of not only wanting to blame other people, but also looking outside of me to make me feel better. Like, who do I need to talk to? This person, which then sets me up for the person to fail me, quote, because they can't fix what's inside of me, because it's inside of me. Or, grabbing for something sugary, or, like, it really was a very interesting observation to see me being so compulsive at the same, as I'm also, wallowing in my upset.
That's a wonderful catch. The thing I was going to point out is that the trap of asking why. That's part of that, gateway drug that Michael Rice talks about, where you are trying to figure things out. And we want people to be in a questioning state, but we want them to be asking to be shown, not to be figuring it out. So, if I'm going to ask a question, I'm probably better off asking what, like what am I making this mean?
Yeah.
And or how is this choice affecting me, rather than asking why am I making this choice? Because that puts me into this idea where I'm going to have some conscious logical understanding. And that isn't necessary, right? I don't need to understand all of the dynamics within my physiology that generate the pain that I experience once I hit myself in the side of the head with a hammer. I just need to understand that when I hit myself in the side of the head of the hammer, that's connected to the pain I'm feeling. I don't need to know all the dynamics of the nerve receptors that send the signal to my brain, et cetera, and how if I'm hypnotized the right way, I won't feel it. And I don't need to know all of that. I just need to see the connection. So asking why is not anywhere near as productive as asking how or what and asking to be shown. So I'm stepping outside of the conscious logical mind, putting it aside for now, and opening up to some higher integrated wisdom to give me an insight, to give me some shift in energy, even if the conscious logical insight isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, if I have you did most of this automatically today when it came to you to ask, what are you making this mean? But if you have somebody like Byron Katie's work and you've got that worksheet with you, or you just remember some of the aspects of that worksheet, you ask yourself, okay, this is what I'm making this mean. Is this true? Can I absolutely know this is true? What if the opposite of this is really true? And if I just start questioning those things, it often leads to a shift in perception that is liberating.
Yes. You're right. I did it automatically. It was pretty, I pretty quickly saw that the belief that was, or the assumption or whatever that was operating underneath it, was a creation of my imagination and not true. But yeah, those are, if I need to, because there are some other core beliefs that I'm working on now that I need to actively poke hole core beliefs, and it's encouraging to notice that I saw all this stuff and I had a much more healthy response than I might have had prior to picking up this work, which I've been doing for I don't know how many years, but yeah, those are very helpful questions to keep on going. Once I've asked the question, what am I making this mean, for example. And just going back to the why question, that is a question I need to probably eliminate from my vocabulary.
Many other people would look at it as a positive and turn it into a negative. That's your right. And the Creator, once having given you that free will, isn't going to step in and say, no, Tim, you're hurting yourself with that. Change your thoughts. So, what happens to me in my life when instead of arguing with people, if they have a different opinion than me, I say, okay, you know what happens most time? Aside from my life getting better, they choose to take offense. It's the weirdest thing, but it helps shine a light on how crazy it is that we are so compulsively trying to get other people to agree with us.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that comes to mind was I had a person come to the support group years ago, and we had just done the Michael Rice talk on Course in Miracles, A New Beginning. And I was basically a novice about Course in Miracles. All I knew about it was one or two lectures from Dr. Michael Rice. I'd never read it, and so we, had the lecture, and somebody said, "Oh, let me take that home." I said, "All right, here's a copy. You can take it home." And she came back the next time, loaded for bear, wanted to fight about this. Course in Miracles says there's no world. And I said, "Okay." She goes, "What do you mean, okay?" I said, "Okay, I'm not an expert in Course in Miracles. And I don't care if you want to think the world is real or not. We're just focused on the positive, constructive results we can implement or experience if we use these tools." And it was clear this person wanted to fight, to argue about being right. And when I just said, "Okay, you can be right," she chose anger, right? Okay. But it's the idea of becoming the baleen, right, that the whale has, that just only takes what nourishes it and lets everything else flow through, or becoming the velvet curtain. If somebody wants to hit a handball against you and you're a solid wall, and then, it hurts when it hits you, and then it bounces back at them, but if you become the velvet curtain, the ball just kind of gently gets absorbed into you and drops to the ground. You can do that with almost every argument that you have, even with yourself.
Oh, that's funny.
Oddly
that would
enough.
be a funny internal dialogue.
Well, that's what we're asking, right? That's essentially what happens when you stopped this morning and said, "What am I making this mean?"
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because
and I think
when you put that phrase in there that says, "What am I making this mean?" it takes it away from just saying, "What does this mean?" as though it has some external validity.
Right. Because I am making it mean something, and you might have made it mean something else. So it's all about my filters and perceptions and whatever that change that. And I'm just thinking the reason sometimes I want to hang on to my feeling is because I want to be right. That's exactly what's going on.
Exactly. And part of that is conditioning. Part of that is what Michael Rice was talking so much about yesterday with the power person dynamic. If I came to believe this is how I survive, and this is a survival level mechanism, then that's a pattern that I need to be able to observe and question and eventually break, because my survival is very, very seldom related to my being right about some intellectual or emotional state.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think I read some place that when you're in a conversation and it's a challenging one, like someone is challenging a statement I just made, that it can trigger that fight or flight response. And you can actually, you get in, or I or whoever has that animal reaction, which also, so I'm saying that to say to myself that I do have to consciously know that and be able to flip that switch back. Like, it is not a threat to my safety if someone disagrees with me. And it is perfectly fine to say, okay, and let them have their belief. It's not a threat to me if they think something that's very opposite of what I think.
Exactly. Unless you believe it is, and then you can create the experience of it being a threat to you. Right.
Yep. That's a conscious practice that I am one of many that I'm doing right now, and it's tricky because I absolutely am aware of an increased heart rate. My breathing starts going faster, and it feels like conflict. which feels like a threat to my safety. But it doesn't have to be. It totally doesn't have to be. There's no injury that's happening, only in my mind. I'm also thinking about this in relation to my child. I am the mom, so I tell him this is what you do, and then I need to be right. And I'm saying this a little bit, in a joking way. I'm noticing now, thinking about how often I argue my position, but there have been a few times when I have used that okay response, and he's like, what? Just totally diffuses the whole thing. Like, it's okay. If that's what you want to think, okay. Like, cool. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, what do I know, really?
Yeah, it is an amazingly liberating response pattern. It helps me go into the questioning. It helps me, especially if I'm teaching my children, it helps me teach them, to model for them being open and flexible and questioning.
And actually, also what I'm thinking about right now, and I notice, is that when I say okay, it actually unplugs that fight or flight response, because I don't have to defend anything either. I don't have to defend my rightness and go into that.
Exactly.
So, one word, 2 letters, pretty effective.
Amazing stuff. Well, is there anything else we can do to support you today? Or anything else on your mind?
No, that's all. That's what I wanted to say, and actually more than I thought I would say. So I appreciate the conversation.
Well, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much for listening and actually using the tools.
Thank you for putting them out there.
All right. Blessings. Area code 901.
Hello.
You're in the
Right.
air. Who do we have?
And we are. That's what Paul was saying.
Area code 901. You're in the air.
You are to think the same way Jesus.
All right. Apparently they're in the conversation with somebody else. So, 563-999-3581. How can we support you? What's on your mind? We have 19 minutes left or thereabouts to talk about what might be of assistance. We have a support group coming up at 6:30 p.m. Central Time tonight where we can talk about things in even more detail. If you don't have a chance to call in now, we have archives full of the last 10-plus years of Internet shows discussing these tools. So how can we support you? What might be of assistance for you in either discussing a particular situation in your life that's troubling or discussing the application of one of the powerful tools that Michael and Jeannie Rice make available at whyagain.org. Part of the call from Jill was to say that, hey, Dr. Tim, you had a positive influence without knowing it, and I'm sure it happens all over the place. Everybody who is coming from either a neutral place or a place where they're consciously aware of themselves as being the energy of creation, extending in form, you're having positive ripple effects all throughout the world that your conscious logical mind will never know of. And that's what today's lesson from Course in Miracles was alluding to, this idea that you didn't create yourself. You don't even know when you were created. There's a lot more going on here than your conscious logical mind can be aware of. And your job is to be a messenger of the creation. And as you accept that message of creation and love for yourself, and then you give it away, then you get it back in spades and many times over. So as you understand that your conscious logical mind is not intended to be the driver of the bus, unless you're actually literally driving a car or a bus. But when it comes to deciding what your purpose is in life, at that primary purpose level that Dr. Michael Rice discusses, your primary purpose is the same as every other person. Your primary purpose is to develop and strengthen a viable, conscious spiritual body, to have the awakening and the recognition that there's a lot more going on here than just the physical body. And as you awaken to that, and as you allow that to be part of what guides you, asking to be shown, tapping into that higher wisdom, some call it your unconscious, some call it Holy Spirit, some call it the Christ mind, but you tap into it and ask to be shown, and then trust that whatever unfolds is going to be of value to you and anyone else around you. Then as you watch your life unfold, you become more consciously aware of miracles than you ever had before. And the thing about a miracle is it's an actuality that we were not aware of in one moment, and we become aware of it in the next moment. That's all a miracle is. A miracle is the flow of life. Course in Miracles might say that, a miracle is merely the shift from the consciousness of fear to the consciousness of love. But essentially, what we as human beings call miracles are actualities of life that we weren't aware of in one moment, and then we become aware of them and we say, oh my God, that's a miracle. But it's just the truth of life. It's just the reality of what is. And if you go into Krishnamurti's book, Flame of Attention, he talks so directly, so clearly about how, we are so convoluted in our language and our thoughts that we think we have all, and we think about and we have all these conversations about what should be. And the actuality of life is there is only what is. And yet we spend all kinds of mental, emotional energy fighting for, discussing, beating ourselves up over what we think should be happening and what shouldn't be happening, when in truth, all there is what is. And the more we can be in direct observation of that, it's one of Krishnamurti's big ideas, is that the more we can be in constant questioning and living from direct observation, the better our lives get. The more we live from belief, the more we live from shoulds, what should be happening, and from the past and fear of the future, the worse our life gets, the worse our experience of life is. But the core of Krishnamurti's teachings is all there is the truth of life. And this process of thought that we use to say, this is good, this is bad, this is wrong, this is right, this should be happening, this shouldn't be happening, is the mechanism by which we create the vast majority of our suffering, mental and emotional suffering. So the more we can learn to observe directly in the moment, the more we can learn to be living in the question, the more we can catch that process of thought and just observe how convoluted it gets and how unproductive it is, the better our life gets. And of course, in this realm, we've got a very specific set of tools provided by Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice that help me cancel any goal I'm holding. Any goal, no matter how loving, no matter how positively stated, cancel it. Why would I cancel a loving and positively stated goal? Well, the reason I would do that is if I am holding that goal and I begin to experience a negative emotional state. And it's completely irrelevant why I'm feeling that negative emotional state or how I got into this. All I need to know is if I don't like how I'm feeling, the most productive way to see how I'm creating that negative feeling is to identify the goal that's active in my mind in that moment and cancel the goal and then ask to be shown. Put my conscious, logical mind aside for whatever brief period is necessary to clear the space in my mind, to let go of the goal and everything I think I want, my trifling treasures put away for now, and leave a clean and open space for something new to come when I ask to be shown. What's the hidden part of my mind that's actually creating my upset here? Another way is, as Jill was saying, I can ask, what am I making this situation mean? How am I using the flow of life in this moment as interpreted by me through this specific filter? How am I using that to create upset? Because that's the only thing that's ever created upset for me. The interpretations that I choose, or what Michael Rice would say, that I decide upon through this automatic decision process that comes from my bloodline and all of the errors of traumas and false beliefs that I inherited, added to my life experiences. And when I end up putting that all aside and asking to be shown something else, then worlds open up to me. And I get a chance to experience the flow of life a little bit more accurately in that moment. So, we have 8 minutes left. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. Or you can suggest a topic for the rest of this show or the beginning of next show. What's the next hour? What's on your mind? How can we be a support? Every time you call and press 1 on your phone, it gives us the opportunity to live into our intention a little bit more easily. The intention we have with this show, with the time we're investing in it, is to be of service. How can we be of service? What's a time in your life where something you said or did and you had no idea of its impact, but later on in your life it became clear? If you have a story like that, share it with us. If you have a hunch about how something that you thought was either neutral or unproductive might eventually have been productive for somebody, how you might have been in the web of life, in the dance of life, unwittingly a blessing to yourself and others, give us a call, 563-999-3581, and press 1. The odd part about that process is that even in a situation where I am triggered and I am upset, I might be a teaching aid for someone because I might be a demonstration of how not to do it. I might live out a cautionary tale. Right? Even if I'm teaching some great spiritual teachings, but I get triggered to upset and I refuse to acknowledge my upset. Well, I'm not teaching in the positive way in that moment if I'm saying one thing and doing another. However, it might be just what somebody needs to wake up. Because my life and the way it starts to affect me negatively or my relationships negatively might serve as a cautionary tale for somebody else. It might be the wake-up call for them to say, wow, I don't want to be like that guy, saying one thing and doing another. He really looks silly. Maybe I better get my act together and make sure that my words and actions are more in alignment. So even when we're not aware, even when we're feeling triggered, it's entirely possible for our existence in this physical plane to be a blessing to others. And it's entirely possible that most of the time that our lives are a blessing to others, we have no idea. Most of the time that our lives are a blessing to others, we're not aware of it. And there's a really good set of reasons for that, rooted in the fact that our conscious logical mind simply doesn't have the power. It doesn't have the memory, the bandwidth. It doesn't have the ability to perceive beyond its very limited range for sight and sound. And so, as the Course in Miracles lessons for today would point out, I want to extend that message of love, the message of creation. I want to give it away, because it's only as I give it away that I truly get the blessing, the value of it. So even if it just seems at times like I'm just faking it until I make it, as I connect with others, I get the benefit of the blessing. This is the opposite of a zero-sum game where I have 100 units of love, and if I give 70 of them away, I've only got 30 left. If I'm giving away the energy of love and creation, I am blessed with it. It's a cycle. There is no separation between giving and receiving. We live in this time-bound world, so we have this sense, this impression through our senses that there is a delay and that there's time, but it's just a flow of life. And there is no separation between giving and receiving. And that's the essence of our lesson for today. You are, like it or not, whether you can wrap your mind around it or not, the fact of the matter is, you are among the ministers of creation, of love. And as you live your life, and whether you like to conceptualize it as you're being used by life, or you're in the flow of life, or you're connected to all life, any way you want to think about it, the fact of the matter is, you're not living in a vacuum. And if you want your life to be better, then choose better. And one of the better ways to choose is to ask to be shown, to put the conscious logical mind aside and refuse the temptation of the culture and whatever your family might have conditioned you to want to be right. Refuse that temptation. And as it says in every reality management worksheet, I cancel my need to be right. As I say in the forgiveness pattern when I do it, I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I put my conscious logical mind on the shelf for now, and I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating my upset. Because my pain, my suffering, my upset has only, always, and forever been created inside my mind, with my process of thought. Guy Finley points out to us so clearly, so often, the vast majority, if not all, of my mental and emotional upset is the product of the misapplication of my conscious logical thoughts. So, hopefully this has been of some value in a ripple effect that I will never see. And we have another day tomorrow. We have a support group tonight, if you're interested, from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central. All the information about joining there is available at mindshiftersacademy.org. I will remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. I just came in at the tail end, only caught about the last 15 minutes of your show, so I apologize. I don't have any notes on that.
That's all right. I think we were just, I think we spent a lot of time expounding on the Course in Miracles lesson and talking about how the positive effects of our lives go well beyond what we'll ever discover. And then we had a lovely call from Jill. And whoever was 901, I turned on that microphone, and they were having a conversation with somebody else, and I couldn't get their attention.
Okay.
So we have not spoken with 901.
Okay, awesome.
All right,
Very
have
good.
a great show.
Thank you.